So I'll tell the story and we'll pull them up as we're going here. The story we're telling. Say again. Oh,
What?
Tell me something I don't know. Where's Gino? Oh shit, where he go? Tell me something I don't know. Where's Gino? Oh shit, where he go?
Follow Gino
so
on Instagram and Twitter. Is where's_Gino. Very fun feed. Oh, I guess I put in the chat too. You gotta follow the Y Files though. OMG, the Y Files. That's on Twitter and Instagram. Fun feeds. All right, Gino, it's all yours.
so tonight I'm telling the story of the Kofu alien encounter. As a lot of people who are already watching could tell by the great picture I have there. Of course, you got to back it up with evidence. I got some evidence here. In 1975, way back in the day when alien sightings were not so prevalent, in Japan, there was a sighting that was named after the city that it happened in, Kofu, and it was a clear night. And so these two cousins were out roller skating, playing around, and it was starting to get dark. So they decided it was time to go home. They wanted to watch one of their favorite shows on TV. So time to go home. Like back then, 1970s, you let your kids go out and do anything you want. No one's watching the kids. So these two kids are out, wandering around on their own, their cousins. And as so they're walking home. They take their skates off. They're walking home, and they spot these two bright orange lights in the sky. And that's the reason this story really I was attracted to, because my UAP sighting was a bright orange light, exactly similar to what they described, and so many others. Again, I talked about it on a different episode. Jeremy Corbell had a similar sighting, and to exactly what I saw. So these two cousins, I think they're in third or fourth grade. They're pretty young, I think 9 or 10. So they spot these two bright lights in the sky, and one of them, the larger one, shoots off to Mount Otago, which is in Japan, obviously, and the smaller one starts coming down overhead. So now they see this thing coming down. They're pretty scared, and out from this, like double the size of a car shaped saucer, comes a like black cylinder tube. So they think this has got to be some sort of weapon or something. So these kids are scared, obviously. 1974. It's not even like UFO sightings are talked about everywhere. And all you got is the one TV where the only science fiction you're getting is possibly Star Trek. Maybe, I don't know. And in Japan, I don't know what kind of shows they have to base their imagination on. So they see this tube coming out. They think it's some sort of weapon, but they run. Now they could hear it like clicking. So the way they described it was the clicking was kind of sounded like an old camera shutter. So so they hear this clicking, they run. Now they're running down the street. I don't know what they were thinking. They hid inside of a graveyard. I don't know about you, but as a kid, I'm not hiding anywhere near a graveyard. I've seen Thriller and Night of the Living Dead, so I know what happens when weird stuff's going on. You don't go to the graveyard; go somewhere else. So anyway,
you only get caught up in that funk for 40,000 years.
That's exactly right. So they're hiding, and now they don't see it anymore. So they think, all right, they're safe. Let's get home, and they start heading home. But all of a sudden, on their way home, they're like in a sort of agricultural area, and there's a vineyard that's on the same block on their way home. So they could now see over the vineyard the orange lights. So I don't know, they got somehow a lot more courage between the graveyard and the vineyard, and they start going over to check out the vineyard. So they can't see the orange light anymore above the vineyard, but as they get into the clearing of the vineyard, they lost sight of the orange light, but now they could see that there's a craft that's landed on the ground. So, I don't know what aliens are doing in a vineyard. I guess everyone likes to get a drink once in a while. So they see this craft that's landed on the ground, and they described it as now it's not orange anymore. It's not glowing orange. It's like a gray silver metallic, and it was rotating at one point, but now it stopped. They could see that it had like a oval shaped dome on the top of it, and they could see writing, legible writing on the actual ship. But they couldn't make it out. They said it wasn't Japanese writing. They were old enough to read Japanese, but they couldn't make out what this writing was. But they remembered what it looked like. They were able to reproduce it, which we'll get to in a second. So now they're standing there in awe of this thing, and they're looking at it, and they also see that it has a ladder coming out of it with 7 steps. So I don't know about you, but if I see this on the ground and there's a ladder coming out of it, you'd think something's coming out of it or is already out there. So now they're sitting there watching this thing, and all of a sudden, an alien pops up behind them and taps one of them on the shoulder. Tap, tap, tap. Now, I don't know why he's tapping them on the shoulder. Usually they're doing other kind of probing than finger tapping. So now this kid gets super scared, of course. What are you going to do when the aliens are poking you? And he doesn't know what to do, so he plays dead. I don't know if that's a good way to get away from an alien, but that's what he's doing. He's playing dead. I think you should make yourself big. Like if a bear's coming at you, you got to make yourself big and scary. I think would be a better way. So
you are the new Survivor, man. You would,
you got to prepare for these things. You got to, that's what these stories are about. So you know what to do in case you start getting tapped by aliens. So now the one cousin is laying on the ground. The other cousin is screaming, "Let's get out of here!" The alien is now circling the kid, kind of observing him. While the other cousin starts screaming, the alien scatters back and starts going back towards the craft. So now the one cousin runs over, scoops up his cousin, says, "Come on, let's get out of here." But now they can see inside the craft from where they are. Because I told you those stairs were down. So now they're checking out inside the craft from their angle, and they can see there's another one inside. And they describe them as super wrinkly brown aliens with big ears and 3 fangs coming out. And wearing silver outfits. And the one that was outside circling them had some kind of what they thought was a weapon. It looked like a rifle with a huge end on, kind of like a blunderbuster. I'm sure a lot of the ladies.
Blunderbuss?
Yeah.
blunderbuss.
Yeah, blunderbuss. But he wasn't using it as a weapon. He just had it. That should be somewhere in the pictures.
The blunderbuss?
Yeah. So look for the picture with 2 aliens and 2 crafts on it. Yeah, there you go. So you also drew the blunderbuss. Right.
All right. I see it. I got it.
All right. So now they're looking inside the craft. They could see that the dome that they were looking at is kind of like almost like a 2-way mirror. You could see out through it, although from the outside you can't see into it. And then also they could see that there's like screens in front of them. Now, again, we're in 1974. TVs back then were as big as a house. So it wasn't like they had LED screens in their mind or computers or anything like that. So that adds a slight bit of credibility to the story for me, that they're seeing these things before they were really reality in, the human, world. So that's what they see. And now they book it out of there. So they book it out of there, and they get home, and they're going crazy telling their parents, and the parents think, the crazy kids making up stories, but they're convincing enough that their mothers, again, they're 2 cousins, so their 2 mothers come with them and go, "All right, let's go see." And they go back there, and the mothers don't see the creatures, but they see the silver disc. They see the ship in the air, and they also see a small orange dodgeball size probe of some kind in the air. So now the mothers are scared. So now they run back to get the father. So now, big family affair. Fathers come out here to check out what's going on, and they don't see it. By this time things are starting to progress, and all they see is the orange light in the air, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. So now that's what the father's seen. So now we got 6 different witnesses so far on it, which that's what it was, and the parents didn't report it or anything like that. So the next day comes, and those kids go to school. So when the kids go to school, to go back, the parents described it as the glowing ball, dodgeball size thing, as like a fiery ball. And there's in Japanese culture, there's something called a hippodama, which is supposed to be like a fiery ball that holds human souls. So that's how they described it, as a hippodama. So the next day, these kids go to school. And now when they go to school, they get to school, and on the wall of the classroom is a drawing of the spaceship that they seen. So like, what's this? And turns out one of the other kids saw the same exact thing and put it up there. So now the 2 cousins are going crazy, going, we seen this. We've met these aliens. They came down. They poked us in the back, telling the whole story to the teachers and everything like that. So now the teachers, of course, don't believe them, but they're convinced that these kids they're truthful. They're not lying, So they tell the principal, and the principal contacted the local newspaper. Now, a newspaper reporter comes out to talk to these kids and interview them. And he takes them back so the newspaper reporter asked them to do all these drawings. So that's what we're looking at. The drawings that we're looking at, like right now, we're looking at there's the blunderbuss up in the top right. The aliens have big ears. They're showing their suits a little with the crafts. So what they're showing at the bottom there, the landing gear was like
kind of like the Kentucky Goblins are described the same way as this.
I'm gonna have to look into the comparison of that, because I never even considered that, but that's interesting. That is exactly what the Kentucky Goblins look like. So on the bottom of the craft, those like U shapes, that's the landing gear. And again, you could see on their drawings, they even put on the markings, and on some of the drawings, it's a little, the markings that they remembered almost resembled some English writing, not all, but some. So now the newspaper guy is out there interviewing them, and he brings them back to the vineyard. Once they get to the vineyard, they see there's these 3 concrete pillars that were knocked over. And there's like a metal fence that was somehow dented by something very heavy. So they see that there. And they also see that there's indents from the landing gear that's there. Obviously these little kids aren't making these indents and knocking down pillars. I don't know what kind of crazy kids they got back there. Maybe they were, but they got now this evidence inside where those landing gears was like white ash. So now you got some empirical evidence that they could test. So the article comes out in the paper, and a scientist decides, hey, I'm going to go out there and study this. So over a month, he goes out and collects soil samples from it. And he concludes very positively that the soil samples are heavy radiation. Now, of course, he can't say that it came from a UFO, UAP, or anything, because at that time, there's a lot of nuclear testing going on in the world. So he said it could be fallout from nuclear testing. It could, it could be other natural things that did this, but something had to connect with the earth here and leave this radiation. So there's some empirical evidence. So now that the article comes out, it's some more witnesses come out. There's one witness who saw the kids and then also saw the ship above the kids. And he runs like an environmental center there. So again, it's not like it's just someone who's that wouldn't be afraid of getting called out for being a liar. Your reputation is everything, especially in Japan. That's part of the culture. So you really wouldn't want to be lying about aliens. You'll lose everything. So that person came out, said they seen it. There was another woman who saw the UAP from her balcony, and then there was another. So after all that happened, 10 years later, there was another woman who came out who said, I was too afraid at the time to say anything. But that night I was driving and I heard loud noises that I thought were fireworks. And as I came across this crossroads, I seen two, what I thought were little kids, because they were about 4 foot or so. She's thinking they're, teenage kids or whatever. And so she starts beeping, trying to get them out of the road, and they not paying any attention to her beeping or anything like that. You know how annoying kids are. So they won't get out of the way, and she just keeps honking, laying down on the horn. Things won't get out of the way, so she inches up close, trying to get around them. Finally, as she gets close to them, she sees they're super wrinkly, and she could see that that they have weird, wrinkly brown hands, and one of them puts its hand on her windshield, and she described it as, it didn't look like a human hand; it looked like the skin of a turtleneck, like super wrinkly. And so she came out 10 years after. So this is a story that came out in the beginning of all, pretty much, UAP history, is when we started really starting to hear about these things a lot more. And multiple witnesses, again, I think is considered one of the most authentic stories coming out of Japan for UAPs. And again, with the multiple witnesses and the great pictures that we have, I don't see how anyone could discredit this story. And that's the story of the Kofu aliens.
There he goes. Story time with Gino.
Tell me something I don't know. Where's Gino? Oh shit, where he go?
Curtis, that light behind Gino, that's for effect. He wants to make it, well, you're looking into the alien craft.
With the green Jack hair, he's the one who bears big bushes, change smell with all the air. Hey, hippity doppity doppity doo. Where's Gino? Yeah, that's who. And yeah, it's true, cause that's a dude he cares a fuck. He brings around and vibes and this souls up.
I love the
OMG, Jen's cat is massive.
He's just chilling.
All right.
It's his bedtime.
I don't know about this story. You believe this one?
I mean, I don't see anything that's wrong with this story as opposed to any other ones. I don't like that it just tapped him on the shoulder. That seems a little strange to me, but that really was a focal point of the story, the tap on the shoulder.
It was.
I did a good amount of reading up on this story again, because when I'm thinking about a story, I think it was something I heard and whatever. So I wanted to, read up on the details. And that's like one of the focal points of it, that since this was the reason the touch matters, is because it's one of the first instances of close encounters of the fourth kind. So now
But people were saying that those don't look like Japanese kids.
I was just going to say, I don't know this picture. I don't like because this isn't part of the drawings. So shout out to Brett, one of our mods on Discord. He's the one who dug up the pictures for me. I don't feel like this picture belongs. I could be wrong, but I don't. I
One
don't
of
think
these
this
things
belongs.
is not like the other.
There
I
ain't no Asian face in the whole spot.
Yeah, I feel like this is maybe the Zimbabwe alien sighting.
I don't see any Zimbabweans in there either.
That's yeah, or maybe I'm thinking of New Zealand.
Maybe Kentucky?
No, Kentucky. The Kentucky sighting was in the woods.
Maybe New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean, if
Could
they
be
weren't
New
holding up
Zealand.
pictures, I would have said, this is Children of the Corn.
Well, there's Austin
Wow.
D for $50.
I just want to celebrate another day of swimming. I just want to celebrate another super chat. Put my faith in you humans, and you humans let me down. Then you give me a shekel and it turns my heckle frown upside down. I just want to celebrate, yeah. Another day of swimming.
Austin D, another amazing show. Kudos to the best streaming channel and crew. AJ, Jen, Victoria, Gino, and Sir Hecklefish. Love you all. Live in Florida, but pretty sure I heard AJ's voice on the radio originally from Huntington, New York. Maybe you did back in the day.